Hi everyone. I'm going to show you a edit start to finish in Lightroom today, and as much as I encourage you to always get your images right in camera, it's something that I try to do myself. Today I went shooting in the studio and just did not pay any attention to my white balance, didn't have my exposure quite right. I didn't want to up the ISO too much, so I left it at 1600. Clearly that was not enough. I was hand holding at 1/80th of a second, and my focal length, or my aperture, was at 2.2. So clearly this is underexposed and not a great image to begin with. I don't encourage you to do this, but when you do, know that you can salvage it. So let's go through and see what we can do. The first thing I want to do is increase my exposure a bit so I can see what I'm doing. I'm looking at the histogram here. I've got clipping in the blacks and no data on the right side in the whites. So I'm going to pull the whites up a bit and the highlights and try to get some data over on the right side of the histogram. This is looking too bright to me now, so I'm going to bring the exposure down just a little bit. I still have clipping. I'm going to bring the blacks up. And it looks like about 20 will do it. 21. Looking better. Now, in my studio, I usually want to shoot at about a 5,000 Kelvin rating. So I shot this at 6150. It's far too warm. I'm going to bring that down to around 52. That looks better. Increase magenta a bit as well, and that looks better. I want to add some clarity, so I'll go up about 12 and just a little bit of contrast, maybe about 6. I'm going to come down here to the yellow panel now and pull down the saturation a bit. The stems of the tulips just look far too yellow to me, and I'll increase the luminance a bit as well. That's looking better. The overall picture seems a little too intensely colored, so I'm going to pull the saturation down about 10. And I'm thinking that that's looking better as well. I know that there's going to be a lot of noise in this image because of the underexposure. So I come to the noise reduction panel and move the luminance over to about 65, color up about 35. I'm also going to increase the sharpening just a little bit because the luminance softens it so much. And by holding down the Option key on my Mac and clicking on the masking slider, pulling it over, I can see exactly where the sharpening is going to occur. And that looks good. I'll leave it there. The other thing I want to address is the tip of the tulip. I want brightened just a little bit. So I'm going to go to the radial filter, click on the tip of the tulip here, and try to brighten that up just a little bit so that we can see where the petals are closing in there. And I'll push this up to about 45, and that should be better. I'm going to come down to the tone curve now. In the very bottom area where it says point curve linear and there's a up and down drop down menu, click on that, and I'm going to click on medium contrast, and that gives it a little bit of a punch. The darks are pretty dark, although they're not clipping. I do want to bring them up just a little bit, not so much as to have a matte finish, but just to pull them up a slight bit, and that looks better. Okay, the one thing on import that I always do is I always have remove chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections checked. So make sure that you do that on your images. It does make a difference. And I think that's it for my edit. I could crop it a bit and bring my subject either on the rule of thirds or have it more pleasantly placed, but I don't really want to change it because this vase is sitting on my writing desk and I have 3 pictures in the background that are leaned up against the wall, and I want the viewer to be able to see that those are framed photographs in the background. So that is the end of this edit for me. I'll show you the before and after. So here's the before, here's the after. We managed to salvage this image pretty well, I think. Hopefully you'll always get your images correct in camera, but when you don't, know that Lightroom can help you by working through the editing panels and achieving a pretty nice edit. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.